a friend, your friend has got a lot to share.
Hey, welcome to another edition of Radio Friends again, and this being for, oh my gosh, can you believe it already? It's the 5th of July, 2024, and I'm Steve Parker here in Berlin, Connecticut. As we look around the room, we've got John Landry is with us, Bob Craig's over there. How you doing, Bob? And that we've got Tracy Carmen is here, Pete Salant, Dave Overson, Ron Pell, totally engrossed in what we're saying right now. He's probably checking his text. Ed Bruder, Chris Tracy. Oh, hi, Chris. Bob Marks is here. Hi, Bob. Okay, now we have to remember. Bob, are you leaving this morning at 10:30? Or are you here with us for a while? Okay, you're going to be here? Okay, cool. Dick Kault. Hi, Dick. How are you? There's Dick over there. Good to see you. Oh, and here we are going into Shark Month. And, of course, we have Jim Harrington back for Shark Month because we know what his has been. Yes. Lee Gordon is here, and TJ Lambert, who may be going in and out of a signal this morning, but he said that he would join us. And here we are. And let's Dave, I understand we have a very special piece to kick things off because our good radio friend Bill Rock has put something together. Of course, many years he started out as the first voice really on Elvis Radio on Sirius XM, and he sent along a great piece that he produced for the 20th anniversary of Elvis Radio. So I think, Dave, why don't we, without further ado, why don't we bring that segment on so we can give it a listen and give it a look.
Elvis Presley.
But it's a one for the money.
Elvis Presley.
For the show.
July 2nd, 2004, Elvis Radio launches from the Sirius Studios at Graceland. The King of Rock and Roll, commercial-free all day. Elvis Radio is here on Sirius.
Live from Graceland, the home of the King of Rock and Roll all across America. You're listening to the debut of the world's first nationally broadcast all Elvis radio station on Sirius Satellite Radio. The excitement and the humidity are in the air. My name is Bill Rock.
Here's another look back at Bill Rock's Saturday night shows. From 2005.
Woo! Elvis Radio on Sirius 13. I'm Bill Rock. It's our 1-year anniversary, and I have an email here. It says, "Hi, Bill. We just arrived back in England from Memphis. We visited Graceland and stayed at the Heartbreak Hotel. We loved every minute, and they also say they look forward to coming back to see us all again. Everyone was really friendly and helpful. Thanks for a wonderful time and lots of memories. Emma and Sean."
I got some good-looking folks here with it. What's your name?
Teresa.
Hi, Teresa.
I have an uncle that's been impersonating Elvis for 15 years.
15 years. What's his name?
Earl Rogers. He's out of Ozark, Alabama.
Now, is he married?
No.
Oh, okay. I can understand that. All right.
It was not an official event, but an impromptu gathering which led to a jam session with Elvis Presley, Johnny Cash, Carl Perkins, and Jerry Lee Lewis. It would become known as the $1 Million Quartet. And I'll also look at the Broadway play it inspired some half a century later, with two of its cast members, Eddie Clendenning, who plays Elvis, and Rob Lyons, who plays Carl Perkins.
What is the mindset as a musician with playing music that's 50 years old versus the music you grew up with?
The music that we're playing in the show, it might be 50 years old, but it's just timeless music. We are a young band of punk rock kids, it feels like, in a lot of ways, and we're just up there rocking out to, some Brown-Eyed Handsome Man.
Here are the guys in the original $1 Million Quartet on Broadway singing Brown-Eyed Handsome Man with Bill Rock on Sirius XM's Elvis Radio on our anniversary special. I remember an avid listener who wrote to me quite often from Oklahoma. His name was JR. I think it's safe to say that JR was a barbecue fanatic. Well, one time he wrote me an email with lyrics to a song. It was a parody of Elvis's Girls, 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 except he changed the name to Grills, Grills, Grills. Grills smoking ham. Grills, grilling chicken, grills, making burgers and dogs. Yeah, I'm just an Oklahoma boy and I can't stop thinking about grills.
Here's another look back at Bill Rock's Saturday night shows. From 2009.
Love that to death, original. A little less conversation from Live a Little, Love a Little with Bill Rock on Elvis Radio. Don't forget Soundtrack Saturday night coming up. I've been telling you about the Rock and Roll Highway. It's, going through different parts of the South. State and area leaders hope to develop the corridor, much like the Blues Highway that leads from Memphis into Mississippi. Could you see if the late Wolfman Jack was still alive? I used to work with him at NBC in New York.
I want to tell you about the rock and roll highway, baby. We be rocking and rolling in the VW bus because we've been hitting them potholes.
Here's another memorable moment from Bill Rock's 15 years on Sirius XM's first permanent single artist channel.
It is so exciting because we're going to be saluting the Cirque du Soleil Viva Elvis grand opening last night. And on the show tonight, we have Gene Simmons of Kiss, Andrew Dice Clay a little later on, Ryan Seacrest. We also have my friend Joe Franklin, who is Mr. Showbiz, is going to talk to us a little bit later on, being in the studio with us live. We also have Priscilla Presley scheduled to be on the show later on tonight. Let's go to the opening last night. First of all, let's hear from Gene Simmons of Kiss.
All of a sudden, little white boys were talking about Jailhouse Rock and Heartbreak Hotel, things that they never talked about. He made sexuality with a backbeat okay.
That was Gene Simmons of Kiss.
I said, take it easy, baby, I worked all day and my feet feel just like lead.
From 2010.
Well, the Beatles met Elvis on this day on August 27th back in 1965. Beatles all sat down on the floor right in front of him, just gaping and staring at him. There was dead silence in the room until Elvis said, "Well, what the hell? If you guys aren't going to talk, I'm going to go to my bedroom."
From 2011.
It's Elvis Radio that you're listening to with Bill Rock. Call up, tell the world your feelings about the king of rock and roll and his music and how his music affected your life. Let's go back to the phone. Who's this?
George Barbary, and I grew up listening to Elvis through my dad. Daddy Don't Cry. When I was a little baby and when my mom left him, I want to hear Please Daddy Don't Cry by Elvis, and what's really touched my heart because I sung it to my dad.
When you're young, you think of things a lot differently, especially the way you feel about your parent. You look at your parents and say, parents are just people, and they have their flaws, and they have their good points. And you share so much more with their feelings than you ever thought you possibly could before. So here it is, Don't Cry Daddy with Bill Rock on Elvis Radio on a Saturday night on Sirius XM.
Today I stumble from my bed.
It was 1 year ago tonight that I was on stage just outside of Orlando, Florida. I was introducing an Elvis tribute artist, Jack Smink. Jack, 1 year ago tonight, you and I got together for the first time.
My highlight of that night was you playing the saxophone, brother. You could play that thing. What was so amazing to me was you jumped right in with the band and with my brass section, and you had a ball.
We kind of revisit that night with a little tiny clip. Poke Salad Annie.
We're going to hear Mr. Rock play a little sax on this one, guys. Yeah! Mr. Bill Rock! Play it, son, play it, son.
Down in Louisiana.
Soundtrack Saturday night.
Occupation Blue.
2 hours of Elvis movie music with Bill Rock, only on Elvis Radio.
Welcome to hour number 1 of Soundtrack Saturday Night. All right, troops, sound off.
I'm Claire.
I'm Joe.
Catherine. I'm Vicky.
This is Ray.
I'm Kendall.
And here's Soundtrack Saturday Night with Bill Rock. Woo!
Step right up to the love machine.
Man, I tell you. He hasn't lost.
I didn't know you play saxophone, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I worked with Bill, and I didn't know he played sax.
I didn't either. But that is one of the best retrospectives I've ever seen.
I thought he sounded great.
Yeah.
You know, and we've had Bill on with us. We've had Bill on with us before. Dave and I interviewed him back a couple of years ago, coming up on the 100th anniversary of DRC, and even back then he was fighting some stuff. He did well, but it was tough for him to hold it together. And he wants to join us again, and I know he is spending time. He enjoys watching the program each week. But so our thoughts and prayers are with him.
Talented guy.
Oh
yes,
very
super. You know, it's funny. He's consistent. He sounded great in 1973 when I worked with him. He sounded great when he was in New York. He sounded great.
He's a nice guy all the way around. I talked with him when I was in Florida this past winter, and we were on for a good half hour talking and laughing like crazy. And I recalled his audition at WDRC, his second audition he had, and it was hysterical because every 30 minutes, Bill had to run out downstairs and we were at 750 Main Street, go down the elevator and put a quarter in his in the
meter.
parking meter, and then go back upstairs and continue it. And it was hysterical. He did a great job with it. And your father thought the outtake. I kept the outtakes, and the outtakes were as funny as his show. And your father says, I can't hire this guy. He says he's cost too much.
Bill did weekends for me at WYNY in New York for 3 years. I could always count on him if hey Bill, I need somebody like in 2 hours. He was there, and he sounded great too.
Yeah.
No, I had oh gosh, I think it had to be a while ago when I first started at CRN. One of the first things I got together with Bill over at Savin Rock, and we had lunch over there, and it was cracking me up because every few minutes he was getting, I think back then it was a pager, and he was getting paged by CBS or whatever, or NBC, whatever. And I just said, "You're just doing this to bust my chops." Got to keep an eye. I got, it's like unbelievable though. But a heart of gold. That guy always.
I think he was. I could be wrong. He was the voice, I think, of MSNBC, NBC. He was everywhere. But yet, like, he always humble.
Yes.
That was
kind of like Bill St. James, everywhere, ubiquitous.
Yep.
And Joe Cipriano.
Oh, of course.
Kind of funny how all those guys ended up working in Hartford at some time or another. Huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, yeah, and you, Lee, for those of us who lived in Connecticut and watched Channel 3.
Yeah, Channel 3. Some guy named Lee somebody did the voice of Channel 3. I don't know. I forget his last name.
Lee Gordon.
Bill Davies used to, the late great Bill Davies was a sales guy, and he used to actually kind of brag to his clients that at the time Jack Carney was at Magic 104, and Steve was working at the station, and I was working there. And so he said, we got the announcers from Channel 3, from Channel 30, and from Channel 8. They're all on our staff. Whatever you need. And he would.
Hey, Lee, when did Bill Davies die? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
He died, I want to say about a year ago.
Couldn't have been too old. 70s?
Oh, no, he was 80, 85, 86.
No, was he that old?
Yeah, when he started at POP, he had already retired from 2 other jobs.
Right. Didn't he work for Northeast Utilities or Eversource, whatever it was? One of the utilities, right?
I think he worked for the phone company, retired
phone
from
company,
there.
that's right, phone company, yeah.
And then he worked for POP, and then I think
radio sales.
And then I think he worked for Arbitron or for one of those companies.
Did he?
Yeah, after he left POP.
And he was really into trains too. Didn't he go down and monitor the trains all the time?
Well, that was one of the reasons he took this job in New York, is because he could commute from New Haven on the train every day.
Wow.
It was the train ride more than the job.
But boy, what a great talk about a corny sense of humor. He was masterful at anything like that. He was so wonderful. He always had us laughing.
Yeah, he's a super
nice guy. Bill was a nice guy.
Yeah. Between
I had a Bill Davies in my CSB class, and he was a real go-getter, but he was a lot younger, even younger than I am by a few years. And that it can't be the same. He worked up in Springfield. I know he worked at HY.
Bill Davies had a specific genetic trait. Genetic's not the right word. I can't think of the word now. He was very short. I don't think Bill Davies was more than 5'5", 5'6". If that's the same guy.
Yeah, I don't know. He was a young kid. I could see him in my mind right now, but all I know is this guy was, he worked I know he worked in Springfield. Worked at 22, I think, in Springfield, and was an announcer there and worked on the radio in the Springfield area. I don't know if it's the same guy or not, but I know his name was Bill Davies.
Definitely not the same guy. TJ would remember, because I think TJ may even have given him the nickname. We called him Toots, and I'm pretty sure that TJ is the one responsible for that. because Bill was a sales guy when we were doing rock and roll, and kept on through the transition to news and worked there for a long time.
Lee, good old Toots Davies. He was something, and he was short too, but he was a selling machine, and he came to POP. He was selling like the yellow pages for I don't know what the phone company was back then, but
Netco,
yeah, whatever it was. But he was selling, and I don't think it was Donnelly, but I think it was actually the phone company, and he was selling it. But he was first in, last out, and a selling machine.
And never, ever, ever that I can remember him without a smile. I mean, always.
Amen.
But he wasn't one of those commission breath type of sales guys. I mean, he loved the business so much. He encompassed it so much. And you can always tell that, I mean, and, Ron like that, and Rob Branham, and so many of the guys that if you had to wear the sales hat and you really loved the entire business, it always came through. Always came through.
That POP sales group back then was really, really remarkable. You had Jay McSorley, Bill Davies, Gary Gerard was a sales manager. I don't know. I'm trying to think of who else was there. We had some really, Jay McSorley, I mentioned, Bill Davies, Rob Branham. I mean, it was really at a very, very high level sales group.
Yeah, a great group of people, and I got to tell you,
I recalled, Richard Mack, who was the voiceover guy from Boston, the Duck.
Al Gates.
Al Gates was a sales guy. Amazing people went through there just selling too.
And TJ sold for a while.
So did Hal.
Yeah, Judge Hal sold there too. I got to tell you one quick story. Bill's daughter got a hold of me when they were doing a surprise video for Bill and Joan's 50th anniversary, and just wanted to get some pictures if they had any pictures or any anecdotes. And the one anecdote that I shared with her is that every morning Bill would come into the newsroom, and Bill was a big Pittsburgh Pirates fan. He was a Pittsburgh. He was originally from West Hartford, but grew up in Youngstown, Ohio, or vice versa. Anyway, he was a big Pittsburgh sports fan, Steelers, but especially the Pirates. And every day he would go during the baseball season, he'd go into the newsroom and he'd ask Jerry Brooks. He'd say, "Hey, Jerry, how are my Buccos doing?" And Jerry would look at him and say, "Bill, they suck, and you're an asshole for liking them." And of course, I mean, and Bill took it in the way it was intended. It was just all in fun, but and Bill was just so good-natured about it. And so, and I believe that they did use that anecdote in the video.
Well, it's really interesting, when you look around, and one of the things I thought would be kind of interesting, and we can pass on this if you want, but I really just thought it would be kind of neat. I still want to get Dick Kault and Barry Berman on the same show together.
Yes.
Just to hear them bat it back and forth. But maybe because, Dick has been with us quite a bit. Dick, if when did you first join Barry? How did that come together? And how did you take it into, the revenue stream that it turned into?
Well, Barry and I had been very good friends while I was at PLR. And we met not long after he started the Connecticut Public Information Network. It was in '73. And he and Peggy used to come over to the studio because Barry lived in New Haven. And they would just sort of hang out. And at some point, he was talking to me about the ski watch, which they had started. And the thing about the ski watch that was very unique is that none of the ski areas provided the information. He had his own skiers go and ski and then report, which made it a very accurate report. And he was winning the ski areas over for the most part. And he asked me if we would carry the ski watch, and I played it for the programmers, and they all thought it would be a good addition. And it built the sellability of the network for him because of our ratings at the time. And from that point on, we talked about different things that he wanted to do. And I said, well, why don't we represent the Connecticut Public Information Network or Connecticut Radio Network when our sales guys are out and around, because they're calling on all the agencies in Connecticut anyway. And he liked that idea. So we started to do that. And then he and I went and pitched the Connecticut Lottery when it was first introduced. I think it was 1976. And we closed that deal. And from that point on, we just started to work more closely. So toward the end of the decade, when I left PLR on December the 8th, 1980. And I was stunned because I was home. I was home by 9 a.m. because I left at 8 a.m. Bob Herpy and I had a meeting, and we just agreed to agree. And I get a phone call, and he says, we're going into business together. I said, how the hell did you find out about this? And evidently it had moved pretty quickly. So I looked at a couple of opportunities. I was offered the opportunity to help launch Weeby 108 when it was WDJF, but it had just been sold by the Flam family, the Flam fam, to a new buyer in New York. And Lydia and I went down to meet him and all that. And Barry and I kept talking. And the interesting thing was, and I'll make this real quick, because I may have told you this. I had a handshake agreement to buy WPLR from Bob Herpy. The last thing I did as I was leaving is I said, I will offer you $3.2 million if you want to sell me the radio station. And he said, okay, why don't you work out the financing? And we shook on it, and he said, it's yours. And then I called Dick Ferguson, who was busy up in Worcester with his group. And I asked him, who's a good banker for me to go see? And he gave me the name up in Boston, and I put together a business plan. And Barry and I went up there and talked about WPLR to the guy. And he said, you'll never make it because interest rates right now are about 17%. And you'll never be able to fund the cash flow that you're going to need at that interest rate. But tell me more about this Connecticut Radio Network. That's much more interesting to me. And at that point, we realized maybe there was an idea here that we could really develop. And at the same time, Bob got an offer of $6 million for the radio station. And he called me and he said, I've got somebody who wants to do it, but my commitment is to you. And believe me, you can have the station if you want to. And I said, I'm not going to cheat you out of $3 million if you've got somebody who can pay $6 million for it. Good, Gag is into, hey, go with health. Do it. And Bob and I we've remained close ever since then. And anyway, so Barry and I went into business together, and I brought a whole different sales perspective to it, and started to look at the idea that a lot of these products had potential beyond radio stations in the state of Connecticut, and that we should be talking to advertisers about how we could create commercial messaging through content, instead of being just another spot in a 5-minute spot set that everybody is fleeing. And that's really how we got started back in 1980. Back then, it was a new concept. And the first deal we got was with Maxwell House Coffee to take the Ski Watch National. And we thought, good, maybe we could get a couple $100,000. I think he told you the story, because they came back, Pat Kane gave us $1 million to launch it. And from that point on, we realized that this was something that we could build in different ways. And within a year, we were handling all of Campbell Soup's radio. And then we created 15 television for them at the same time. And this was all because we had the talent to create the content and the sales capability to position it to advertisers in a way that they could understand how it was a benefit above and beyond just a straight commercial. And the agencies hired us because we did all the work, and they just added a commission. So that's how we started, and it grew into a business that I'd say over the 40 years, we did about $750 million or so, give or take.
Didn't you?
Dick, I just have a question for you, Dick. Do you remember a guy named Bill Hoffman? Does that name ring a bell at all?
Bill Hoffman?
I remember Bill Hoffman. He had a ski report.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah, definitely.
I used to run his ski reports on Big D.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
used
we
to
ran
have
those
him
for a while.
on
Yep.
at WICH in Norwich.
Yeah.
This is back to around 1967. Did he have anything to do with you people with his ski watch program that he did?
I know that we had talked to him at one point, but I don't recall ever working directly with him. We kind of competed, but we didn't jump all over each other. We had about 120, what do you think, Ron? At one point, maybe 130, 140 radio stations carrying the ski watch, and Hormel sponsored it for years. And I remember one favorite promotion that I came up with in a meeting one day where we were promoting Hormel chili. And I wanted to do a promotion where we were going to, it was called Ski Chili. And Hormel was going to send you to go skiing in July in Chile. And they couldn't get their head around where I was going with it. And I said it was such a great play on words, but instead we sent people to Hawaii in February, and they went skiing and then went right to the beach after skiing. And that was one of the things that we did a lot of great promotions. Ron and Steve joined us and brought their perspective to it. And Ron was
We had Hormel had their Stag Chili brand, and we ran reports all over Canada.
Oh yes,
Remember that?
including in Quebecois. We knew that if you were going to be in Quebec, you weren't doing it in French and you weren't doing it in English. So we hired people to handle it, and they spoke Quebecois, which gave it it made it legit.
Yeah.
And we all over Western Canada, and then we did promotion in Europe. One time we did a spot buy in New Zealand, and the radio station that we bought, the general manager had been the iHeart regional manager in Atlanta and knew us very well because we'd used him all the time in Atlanta, and he was down there in New Zealand. But it was 40. We worked together for 42 years. Wow. And it was terrific. And Steve was with us for, I don't know, 10, 12, 14 years. Ron for 15
13
more. And
let's see, 2006, almost 14 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ron was a lot of fun. It was like, it was really a lot of, I remember one incident with Ron. We only ran into this one time, and that was trial by fire. And that was in the middle of Dodge, Ram Heavy Duty. And we had to get all those markets closed in just a few days. And I was freaking losing my mind because I was anything but a numbers guy. And I walked into Ron's office, and he was flipping out. He was banging his computer, and he looked at me and said, "Steve, there's an option. There's the door." And then he looked at me and said, "Took me 6 months to learn how to do this." But
450 radio stations in 150 markets in 3 weeks.
Right.
Quite the task.
One by one.
And we couldn't use our current buying staff. They were too busy. We had to go out and recruit a whole nother staff of buyers.
Yeah.
I remember poor Donna Goodman coming to my office and crying. Said, "I can't do this." I said, "Donna, this isn't life and death. Don't worry. You're
not landed 747s.
Yeah, we always said, yeah, right. It's not landing stuff. We also did the World Baseball Classic, and we did it in various countries. We did that all in Spanish.
Yeah.
And you know what it was? We filled a void that most agencies had for real specialty work. We did the hard stuff, and we did the nitty gritty. We were micro operators that they just didn't have the understanding how to put together, nor did they want to. And we filled.
Dick, here's a name for you: Sarah Luarte.
Sarah Luarte. She was actually the head of the CBA.
The base, but she was doing the WB, the World Baseball Classic. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah.
She could be a tough lady. Nice, very nice in a way, but tough.
Yeah.
How about dealing with Dick Stockton?
Yeah. Oh, he was a pleasure. He was a pleasure. We did a podcast with Dick Stockton called Stockton. Unfortunately, it never really got off the ground.
No,
but
nice
Dick
guy.
Told stories, but one of the nicest people you'd ever want to work with.
Really nice guy.
He was. And we launched. We had 6 or 7 podcasts. One of them, Distraction. We had some months where we were over 100,000 downloads with Dr. Ned Hollowell, who became a bit of a pain. The problem was that with podcasting, We would produce them, we would distribute them, and we would sell them. And people would whisper in the ears of our talent that they could be making more money if they went with them or whatever it was. But we were early in podcasting, but it never really, we never really became the factor in podcasting that I had hoped we would. But it wasn't the end of the world either. I think what we did on radio and also on television, we did a lot of breakthrough stuff. I'll give you one last anecdote. I think I already told you this, though. We handled Vlasic pickles, and Vlasic pickles had been bought out by Campbell Soup. And they wanted to do a tour with the Vlasic stork. So I said, well, why don't we do this? Why don't we bring the Vlasic stork to some baseball games in the minors, like AAA games, to test it out? And I'll arrange to have the stork throw out the first pitch. And they loved the idea. So we put together a deal, and it was for Des Moines and Omaha, just as a test. So they sent me the Vlasic stork outfit, which, by the way, one Halloween I actually wore, and I think I lost 7 pounds trick-or-treating because I was sweating like a pig. So we get out, so we go out to Des Moines, and I have this young gentleman who's working for me. I can't remember his name right now, but he was willing to go out, and we would have the pregame, go in the parking lot, and people would see the stork, and we, do nice, and it would be a lot of fun, hand out samples. So then we go out to the pitcher's mound, and they do the Star Spangled Banner, and we come out, and I'm with the guy, and I hand him the baseball, and at the moment I hand him the baseball was when I just discovered right at that moment that storks do not have thumbs. So it was at that exact moment that I learned that it would be very difficult for the stork to throw out the first pitch 60 feet 6 inches. But he did. He figured it out. And then we went on to Omaha.
The one that I really recall that I thought was masterful was Kit Kat and coffee. I thought the way you put that together with all those convenience stores was amazing.
Yes. Yeah, because it was a logical thing. I don't understand how people hadn't thought of these things before, but it caught on in an instant, and they loved it. They loved it. But you know what it was?
Kit Kat stuff right next to the coffee. It was great.
Yeah, we would get together in meetings, salespeople, media people. Ron would run them, Barry would run them, I would run them, whatever it might be. Nobody was better than the other. This was a meeting of a peer group. And no idea was too stupid, too big, too small, or whatever. We would put anything on the table for a client and play it out all the way until we felt really good about the logic behind what we were going to propose and how we were going to get it done. And it worked well. I think it did. I'd say over the 40 some odd years we employed maybe
fascinating stuff. This is fascinating.
Yeah.
And we knew how to make those radio stations bleed. We knew how to make them bleed coast to coast. And I would never.
Well, we had a saying. We don't have to be on number 1 if number 5 will give us exactly what we want. If you look at a ratings book, the difference between the number 1 station and the number 5 station isn't that great. But the number 5 station is always I'll use Hartford example. RCH didn't have to do anything, get on every buy. They were always number 1. But DRC might be number 5 in the 2554 demo, but it wasn't like they had 3 times the audience. But DRC wouldn't get on these buys, and many markets were that way, and we would find a willing partner because we would ask a lot. There's what Steve is saying is true. It's not just spots, it's promotion, it's PSAs, it's whatever theme and whatever scheme, and I use that word not pejoratively, whatever scheme we would come up with, the radio station really had to buy into it. We also gave the radio stations a lot of stuff. Not only that, we gave them a lot of money, but we gave them things. We gave them merchandise. We gave them opportunity, and it really helped the radio station. So the number 5 station would play ball with us, and at the end of the day, we delivered like nobody's business for the client. And that was the hallmark of CRN.
Yeah, we almost never had stations walk away from us because we were willing to sit down and discuss it on their terms. And the reason was because we were radio people. Yep. We understood how radio stations operated. And it worked well for us when we were with agencies because we understood how to, for better or for worse, we understood how agencies operated, and we filled a niche or a void at an agency where we did very laborious things and very detailed things that they could not afford to do, but the concept that we brought to them made them look good to their client. And very often they would let us go in and do the pitch, or we would just go and work client direct. So it was whatever worked best, but we had a lot of good successes. And I think the biggest mistake we ever made was, and I lecture on this, is that we got so deeply engaged with USAA, which was a gigantic client. We would typical buy might be 150 markets. We might go 2 or 3 stations deep and then buy television. And they would want times for every station, for every day, for every unit. And they
I lost a lot of sleep on that one. Oh my God.
But they loved us. They loved us because we gave it to them.
But gave them that stuff.
It was such a
you had to have agencies that understood it too. I mean, so many agencies to me, just a little bit that I've done with them, they're threatened, because we are coming in and we're trying to be a partner with the agency. And in many cases, like from what I gathered, they thought we were trying to, get the business from them. And all we wanted to do was help them make money, and we'd all make money.
Well, Initiative, we even opened up an office inside of Initiative in New York just to handle USAA. So we were in a good partnership with them. They understood the logic and the dynamic.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Dick. I was gonna jump in about the Navy SEALs Fitness Challenge. One of the best things we ever did was the Navy came to us, and we had done some business with the Navy, and they said, we have this thing we're trying to do. It's called the Navy SEALs Fitness Challenge. We want to promote Navy SEALs, but really what we're promoting is joining the Navy. And we have this opportunity where we're going to send out Navy SEALs around the country to major markets, and we're trying to figure out how to promote it. So we came up with the Navy SEALs Fitness Challenge, where it was you'd run, do some weightlifting, some calisthenics, and this whole little thing. And we were trying to reach men 18 to 24, really. And we figured out that, how we could do this? What's the best format for reaching those guys? A lot of it was classic rock. Not classic rock, progressive rock, like a good rock, top rock station. So we went into Chicago, Los Angeles, Boston, Dallas, Seattle. Phoenix, Seattle. Yeah, remember Seattle? Oh my God. Yes. And we would engage with the top rock station, and we would hook up with their morning drive personality or afternoon drive personalities. I remember I did it in Chicago with morning drive guys, and we would encourage them, and we would pay them. I mean, they would get a pretty hefty fee to actually do the Navy SEALs Fitness Challenge. And we would create a vignette or do it live on the air, and the guys would do the fitness challenge and then go on the air and talk about their experience. Now think about that. You talk about an endorsement.
Yeah,
it was an event, and you think about an endorsement, and then, but it's amazing. So the actual challenge would be a Saturday at noon, let's say, at a local, in Los Angeles, we did it at UCLA on the track at UCLA. Well, you talk about a success. Hundreds of guys would show up to participate in this. It was phenomenal. It was phenomenal. They had an event company that they hired, and the guy was they were originally Navy SEALs, and it was so successful. It was one of the best things I think CRN has ever done. It was phenomenal.
I tell you, one of the things I got, what was it? Can you fly to Seattle for the afternoon? A lot of it was the hand-holding that we did between the radio station and the client to make sure both sides were doing what was expected from them.
Yep.
And, being in the middle of this thing and watching the Navy leapfrogs come on a freaking airplane in front of you with a parachute, but also what was cool was how many dads, young dads, showed up with their little kids with them, and their kids got to see their dads like being superheroes. You know, that was so, because even though it was geared at that group, it was also a great family event, which, you know, I think was something that people loved. But when you say drive to Brooklyn, I go, no, I'll fly to Seattle. I'm not driving to Brooklyn. Great. But that was the stuff. I mean, God,
That was a good one.
Fun.
Well, you know, that one worked out well. And because of that, the Navy hired us to do recruitment Spanish language.
Yeah, I remember that.
Recruiting,
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
into the Navy. We had all kinds of very unique type of challenges that we were not afraid to take on, because what we did is we would sit down, think it through, look at exactly how it could be done. And I have to say that I think that the DNA of the company, because it was so clearly radio, that we were able to develop things that we knew would connect with radio stations and also motivate them to put it above and beyond, you know, to make it part of what they were doing as opposed to just another sponsor. And it really and truly did make a difference.
Well, kind of like a springboard from that. I mean, having all of you guys here, and anybody can pipe in, but I think maybe, you know, contests that you were part of that maybe did go over the top, or maybe really did either, you know, prove to be a tremendous success, or what the hell were we thinking when that crashed and burned? I mean, I can remember going to rock stations, and they happen to do club events, and you go by and there's been a blizzard and there's 3 cars in the parking lot. You still have to go in there and say to the client, so what are we going to do next week? After they spent all that money on an event.
I mean, Clark can relate to this because he's deep in it right now with our former alma mater. Is that former an alma mater? Would that be redundant? But I have to tell you that just the memories of it and just thinking through what the essence of radio and the experience that we had, that we brought to the table, and the willingness to listen first, talk second, one mouth, 2 ears. Always listen as twice as much as you talk, because they will tell you what it'll take. But, and I'll close with this. My very first experience was being thrown out of an agency with the security taking me out of the agency. and that was when we had just launched PLR, and I went down to New York, and I spent the first 7 or 8 years on the air. But when I got into PLR and I was able to, you know, really put together an organization with Bob Herpy, I was very excited to go down to meet with the media director for Kentucky Fried Chicken, I think it was. And I sat down and I started to tell her all about PLR, and about 5 minutes into it, she says, stop. Let me ask you one question. Do you know what our objectives are? Do you know who we want to talk to? Do you know why we want to talk to who we want to talk to? Do you know what we're doing currently in media? Because all I was doing was saying how great PLR was and why they should be using it. So she asked me those 3 or 4 questions, and I said, I understand exactly what you're saying, and I apologize because all I did was talk. She said, you're right. Now, get out. And she brought in a guy, and they escorted me out, and that was the single most significant learning moment of my entire professional career.
I think when I went out early, when I first started with Bill Hines, and Bill Hines and I were going after, he was our sales manager back then when I was with Ron at DRC.
I remember
Bill Hines, and we went to the Rib Room and had a big
Sinesta.
The Sinesta, yeah.
We had a big event with a big gathering of lunch and everything. It was with a health club at that point in time. And Bill went on and on and on about radio and never mentioned the call letters one time. And I said, Bill, you never mentioned the call letters. He goes, Steve, they know who we are. And all it was, you know, talking up radio, what radio can do, and the theater of the mind, and what it was all about. And that's when I learned, you know, if you lead with the radio station, you're screwed. If you walk into a room and you notice the guy's got a picture of his son playing hockey, and you pick up on that before you talk to him about the radio station, that's when they're going to listen, and that's when they're going to understand that it does make a difference. But but it always came down to the creative. And if you had an idea, but like Dick was saying, before you go there, at least listen to what their objectives are, you know?
Do your homework. You have to.
I was always taught in sales that it's people don't care how much you know unless they know how much you care.
Well, it's true. And if you handle a situation right, people will always tell you exactly how to sell them. It's all a matter of doing your homework, asking the right questions, listening, and then listen some more.
And letting them think that they're part of the process. You know, once you come up with an idea, you know, if you come up with the idea and they feel like they were part of it, even if one of the things I always enjoyed about radio was, you know, pulling out a legal pad in front of them, making some notes, and maybe even sketching out some copy ideas. Because even if they weren't the right ideas, the fact that they were sitting there and you were like taking some of the things they were saying and jotting them down. But, you know, Bob, when you piped in there, I did want to ask you, you know, being with, you know, going from commercial radio, like, you know, regular radio into Christian FM, what kind of promotions? I mean, did you have to say at the end of every spot, this is the best place to go, swear to God? I mean, you know, really.
You couldn't say that anyway. That was illegal.
What kind of stuff did you do at Christian FM?
Well, we had to be particularly brilliant because we had to overcome all of the negatives that, you know, because the FCC has a different set of rules and regulations for not-for-profit stations.
Do they ever?
You know, you can't mention prices. You can't use adjectives like best, beautiful, incredible. You know, all these things. So, and I still write copy for Christian FM, and I've been through it over the last 30 some odd years, having to come up with ideas on how to present a client and say what they want to say without actually breaking the FCC rules and regulations.
So it's a challenge. We're trying to figure that out right now.
Tracy and I are going through that right now. It's we're finally starting to pick up on some underwriting and help with keeping this thing on the air. And we keep getting brick wall after brick wall after brick wall. It's it's
with
difficult.
With my experience, I could help you guys out. So if you want to send me the copy or script ideas, I'll be more than happy to follow through on that and help you.
Oh, that would be, Bob, that would be amazing because we're totally frustrated with how tied down we are.
I think where there's a will, there's a way. Dick, what you did with CRN and Ron and trusted radio friends is just legendary. Can that happen again today? I mean, I know we're older. Remember how dumb we used to be? Well, we're better now. Anyway, look, I'm 75 and I still believe in radio. And there are a lot of radio stations, big and little, that are aimless. They've got problems. They're not performing. They sound like crap. They don't do what Big D used to do.
And those are the positives.
Together with your concepts again.
Hey, it's the friggin' consultants. I gotta tell you, you know, I mean, the thing that I ran into right away, I mean, even in my own station, why would you do it 10 after 8 every single morning? The same damn question, day after day after day, and take caller number 5 or whatever. I mean, you know, I mean, and how do you get around somebody being able to Google something? You get them on the air and you got to ask them immediately what the answer is. I mean, I don't know if I see Dave may have disappeared there. I'm not sure. Dave Nagel, are you still there? No, I don't hear Dave because I would imagine that he's run into quite a few things with JMJ. Again, you know, having to be in a situation like that. Dave, did you run into a lot of stuff, Dave, with JMJ as far as copy and everything went?
We actually ran into the same obstacles that all non-coms run into, which is, like you can't mention best. This is, you know, you've been waiting for whatever. You just can't. You're limited to what you can say, what you can do. So you got to be more creative. We walked a line because a lot of the underwriting would come from different Catholic organizations within the church. Different branches, Knights of Columbus, things like that. So they we'd have to educate them on what we could do for them, and be realistic about it. Versus, we're not going to be able to do the same type of campaign you would get, say, on DRC or KISS or TIC.
Well, Dave, let me stop you there for just a moment, because if it's a not-for-profit ministry or organization, like Knights of Columbus or whatever, any organization can say whatever they like. They can even mention money. The FCC allows that on a not-for-profit station.
Yes, they do that, but we were so conservatively run by the GM. He wanted to totally adhere to, no, they can't, and the lawyer says so. Not that I ever talked to the lawyer, but that was the priest that runs the place. So he ultra conservative. He didn't want to flex. He was the licensee. He's actually the licensee. So I get it. It's his baby. But I do hear what you're saying, Bob. We still had to walk the walk because of management more than there are, obviously regulations for when it wasn't a religious organization coming on board too. They don't even have to be a religious organization. They can just be a nonprofit organization. Well, no, we had
Warrior Project or something like that.
Oh, MVY had to go nonprofit to save themselves. MVY on the Vineyard was totally almost gone until they went nonprofit.
Wow.
That was a tough one. Hey, Pete, I wanted to ask you, only because you were a major driving force when 92.5 was really doing a lot of promotion on country. I mean, man, oh man, you guys were just about doing everything. Of course, when you did St. Jude's and everything, you gave 1,000% of the radio stations to St. Jude's. But it seemed like everything you did, you guys were really leading with a lot of creativity over there.
Of course we were, because we had to in order to win in a market where everything was set against us. People would say, country, I don't like country, and that was the attitude that they would have with their Arbitron reporting, but when we were still Diary. So we had to come up with bigger, better promotions, and we had limitations too, like giving away cash using the question of the day or whatever, but I didn't have a jock on the air at the time. I mean, my jock was in Washington, D.C. and did it the night before. So, I would have to sit in the studio and fire off her voice answering the question. So we had to cover all the bases and all that. But we had, frankly, we had a lot of money to work with at that time. It was before everything was reined in. We did a lot of patriotic stuff, obviously, and a lot of things with veterans organizations. Why wouldn't we? And of course, the St. Jude Radiothon, we would give away the entire radio station for 3 days at a time, and it was worth every moment of it.
It's an image you couldn't buy. Basically, helping the kids. Come on, it's an image you couldn't buy.
You're right.
Absolutely.
One of the very first things.
That's how we did the Connecticut Children's Medical Center with DRC.
That's right. Yeah. That was always very successful.
Oh yeah, and
one of the very first things we ever did at PLR was MD with Jerry Lewis on the New Haven Green for 2 years in a row.
Wow.
And it was all for charity, and it makes a difference. If I could just offer one comment in response to Clark's question. And thank you very much for your kind comment, by the way. One of the things that bothers me most about the status of radio is that we're here, we can reach people, but we are still fighting with ways to motivate people to change what they're currently doing because it's so easy through social media. And I wonder, interestingly, my daughter works for TikTok, and I watch the addiction level with TikTok is beyond logic. Okay. Oh, Dave was saying something. I don't know what he's saying, but he's okay. But I think that the thread between social media and radio has to be more. It has to be utilized more. You know, it's one thing to do a podcast with the morning show, you know, and that's good, and to be updating things on Instagram and YouTube. But I think one thing that I haven't heard much of might be to get to get some very strong influencers from like a TikTok or some of the other social media to come on the radio, either conversationally or actually give them some radio time in exchange for them talking about them being on the radio, because they could hand over 50,000 listeners to a radio station because they have 1 million followers on TikTok. You know, in other words, it's actually inventing a wheel as opposed to trying to force yourself back into the consciousness of younger people, because their entertainment effort, what they do to entertain and inform themselves, is just different. And what we need to do is get them to help influence their followers to come to the radio, and you need to give them a reason for them to come to the station. And it could be them, if you could look at what they could talk about and how it would fit into a format.
That makes complete sense, except for one thing. The brass in the large corporations is saying, don't talk, let's talk more music. And also they don't have the personnel anymore on site to do that kind of thing, to interview people, to integrate that kind of programming into you know their radio station. It's most radio stations are nothing but a computer. It's a jukebox. How do you do that and still have the economies of scale that they're looking for?
I don't know. I think maybe what you're saying there between you and Dick, Pete, maybe what you have to do is, without, you know, maybe you don't even have to dig into your pocket. Maybe you make these influencers part of your radio station, you know, so it's almost like, you know, maybe there's some way to, you know, I don't know how. I mean, if influencers are taking place of the influence that DJs used to have, maybe you have to make an influencer part of your crew.
I feel some kind of a discussion could take place, a brainstorming session.
Yeah.
The kind of brainstorming session Dick was talking about before, where every idea is, or maybe it was Ron, where every idea is great, and you know, you listen to all ideas and don't poo-poo them, you know, from the start. But I think, Steve, you know, you have something going there.
You know, I listened to not lately, but I used to listen to Elvis Duran on and he was syndicated on KC 101. And of course, with you know, it helps to have an unlimited budget. I mean, that station in New York probably built millions and millions and millions of dollars, but he must have had 10 or 15 people involved in the morning show, and more than one of them was a social influencer, using social media to enhance the radio show. I mean, he's been doing that for years and years and years.
They may have been really, ego-driven. They may have simply been ego-driven and been working for nothing.
Could be, but I mean, to be associated with Elvis Duran was a big deal.
Yes.
But social influencers today are making plenty of money.
Yeah,
really are. And the thing is that you don't have to, it's not a matter of hiring them. It's a matter of introducing them to an audience that they can continue to grow their audience and their sellability, but at the same time you're importing their followers into your product. You know, there's not a clear-cut formula. It's a concept that, for example, Clark, it doesn't matter whether you're running 500 watts or 5,000 or 50,000 watts. If you're talking to somebody in New Haven that's on TikTok that has 10,000 followers, and there's something that they'll do on the radio station that they're not doing on TikTok, but they're talking on TikTok about how you got to tune in order to find out about this thing, then you're creating motivation for people to start to expand how they're hearing the people they want to listen to. And it's just a reality of what's out there right now, whether we like it or not. Because how do you fight 170 million, not followers, there are billions of followers, 170 million people that are on TikTok, and that's just one of them. And there seems to have, it's a sort of a resistance, and yet at the same time an understanding. I've talked to Jeff Warshaw about this as well, and they're active in the social media, but I just think that there's more, taking a step back and looking at how people that are 20, 30, and 40 years old right now are spending their time, and take a look at how much time they're burning their faces into their phones. Because I see
8 hours a day. I mean, the average numbers of looking at them, huge. I mean, you don't even realize it. We don't realize it ourselves. In fact, we were talking this morning. I was saying to somebody, you hear about all these distracted driving things that are happening now, running over people and all of this stuff. And you have to wonder how much of that is. And I said, even people need to realize, maybe you want to scare the shit out of some of these people. Tell them what happens when a guy that was an all-American family man, terrific, all of a sudden runs over somebody, on the side of the road, and they end up doing 20 years in prison. Yeah. Scare the hell out of them. Scare them straight. Let them realize to put that behind them. Because that's the problem right now. People aren't putting them down. And I'm saying that, and I'll probably be doing the same bullshit today. It's terrible. We all count on that thing. Listen, I know we're running tight here because Dave is giving me the nodding up and down. Bob, I wanted to ask you, Bob. You're dealing in a whole different world up there in Philly, and a jazz station and all that. I know what you do, but the overall station itself, do you have some flexibility when it comes to promotion? I mean, obviously you're not locking yourself in the studio and playing nothing but jazz, but what kind of things do you have freedom to do out there?
We used to do some promotions, and the best of it all would be like ticket giveaways, concert ticket giveaways. We never really got deeply involved in that at all. And in recent years, we've done away with that. We just concentrate on localization, concerts, shows that are in the community, promoting musicians. That is the angle that we've taken. Promotions are meaningless to us, like giving away something. That doesn't work on public radio at all. We're a half classical and half jazz station. When you combine the two between HD2 and streaming, we offer that service 24/7, both jazz and classical. 6 a.m. till 6 p.m. is classical on FM, and 6 p.m. until 6 a.m. is jazz. However, like I said, if you combine the two, you can find jazz anytime on our streams. But promotion is really meaningless to us. Our radio station in the past 3 years has really gotten involved mostly in soliciting people that are willing to make contributions, whether it's bequeathing real estate, cars, their savings, whatever, and we're pulling in some pretty decent money that way. Pledges online and pledges by telephone have decreased over the years for the simple reasons of things that we're talking about now, the decrease in radio listening. However, it balances out when you go after an older demo who has a lot of money and they are willing to back a product that they deeply believe in. Again, these are old radio people. There are a lot of people like us. Our demo is pretty much 65 to death. And these people really value what radio is about. They love the localization. Our people on the air are very knowledgeable on what they do. That's the reason they listen to us, is for that knowledge, that deep involvement of our passion for the music that we play. It's company, and again, it's upper demo, and they have a lot of money.
Yeah, I tell you that, and that's it. And plus, you bring the personalities and the talent on the air, and you talk to them and interview them, and you're offering a lot more than just the music. Well, listen, before we get out of here, we're coming up on 50 years, I guess, next year, the celebration of 50 years of Jaws. And Jim, we got to ask you, Jim, before we go, are you going to be out on the vineyard in another year or so?
No, I'm going to pass on that. It's funny you mentioned Shark Week at I guess Discovery. I was just reading 4 shark attacks shocked South Padre Island, Texas, during the 4th of July celebration. So I guess people brought their hot dogs and hamburgers, and the sharks were looking for something a little different.
Well, not only Florida.
Oh gosh,
that's climate change for you.
I still have people asking me.
Climate change.
I still have people asking me, how could you get in the water with that shark? And I'm amazed at that. I mean, I know I look a little dumb, but I would never get in the water with a shark.
Hey, Jim, you could also tell them you've been involved with radio general managers who are real sharks.
Actually, they're worse.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, God. Well, listen, and I'm going to be hitting you up, Jim. I try to get Jim on the air with me every week because we'll talk about sharks on the station. And I actually have a guy on the Cape I'm going to get back on. He's the captain of a ship out there, and he's got like one of these, catamarans, and he really goes out. He's got either a drone or a pilot in the sky, and they chase sharks, and they have to be in very shallow water. And he has people come on board the catamaran. To go up.
I spent my summers as a kid on Cape Cod, and we used to go down to Chatham, where they had the Chatham Light, and you could go down and see. It was very shallow, and you could see people swam, and they would go surfing or something. But now, seriously, if you go to the same spot and look down on the beach, you can see the sharks. They followed the seals up the Gulf Stream, and they follow the food. And it's not safe anymore. You couldn't get me in the water in Cape Cod with a shotgun.
I have a friend I went to high school with who lives just up the road in Palm Beach, and he's an underwater videographer, and he will pay money to go on an excursion on a boat just to dive with sharks. And,
man!
And he'll just to film them.
They must make a lot. Yeah. They must make a lot of money with that footage.
And my name is not appetizer.
All I know is I've got a swimming pool, and I always look twice. I don't want to be surprised by a shark in it. That's all.
You think after all these years, once they hear the music, they get out of the water.
One of the most famous pieces of music there is.
Well, Dave, we're going to get out of here. And Dave, I know I've actually intentionally left a lot of this open to the gallery, only because there's been a lot of different comments on this, and I want to thank everybody. But I'm going to jump off here. We're going to turn everything off, and I know some of you have to leave. But as always, we'll wait till the last of you after we stop the recording. We'll wait till the rest of you fade away, and we're going to come back again next week on the 12th and do this again next week on July 12th. And for this latest edition of Radio Friends, again, I'm gonna get us out of here. I'm gonna kill the recording, but this is when we have the most amount of fun and say, why weren't we recording all of this? Just imagine. All right, guys. So thanks so much, everybody.
Your friend has got a lot to share.